Hello everyone, this is Dean the Autist, and now it is time for the final route of Katawa Shoujo. Without further ado, let's begin, shall we? I believe it's Sip Part 2. Okay then. There's got to be something to do that can kill the time. Go for a walk into town. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive. There was a reason she left the classroom after all. And that aside, I do want to catch up with Lilly at the very least. I'd like to thank her for looking out for me despite her other, obviously taxing duties. I guess I'll walk around town. With any luck, I should be able to find Lilly. The exercise will do me some good as well. Walking through the school courtyard to the gate, I give a small nod to a couple of passing classmates, the gesture being returned in kind. Even from here, the shouts of the sports club members can be heard from the sheer volume of the din. The track must be packed right now. I remember what Lilly said yesterday about being dropped right into the middle of a busy time for the school. While I'm trying to get my bearings and catch up on study that I've missed, everyone else is doing normal school activities. The feeling of being a foreigner still hasn't dissipated. At least not yet. Well, I guess not everything's bad. This is a private school, and that much is easily noticed when walking around outside. Not only are the school grounds huge, but the buildings themselves are immaculate and quite divorced from the dime a dozen concrete blocks of public schools. There's also the fact that there is a much stronger feeling of community here, or at least a friendlier atmosphere. At my old school, it was generally accepted that people would keep to their little clique and be done with it. Eventually, I reach the gate and begin to walk down the road into town. Well, that was fairly productive. Having seen a fair portion of town, even including the houses perched on the hills around the outskirts, I decided to take a walk around the park before heading back. Living in the city all my life, the total lack of smartly dressed businessmen and fashionably dressed girls strikes me as incredibly unusual. All that to be seen are the odd elderly person shuffling around the sidewalk and assorted, busily chatting pairs of middle-aged women outside of small storefronts. Walking along the road to the park quickly distracts me from them though, making me realize that I perhaps pushed myself further than I should have to see as much as I could. As my breath begins to wheeze and my chest tightens more and more, I give up on the prospect of soldiering on. After a quick glance around the park as I enter, I take a seat on a wobbly old bench that I noticed near a couple of vending machines. For a few minutes for minutes on end, I sit with my head bent over, forcing myself to take deep breaths. I feel more like an old man than a teenager who should be in the prime of his life. The stay in the hospital, the surgery, and the medications must be taking their toll on me. Damn it. Eventually, my breathing returns to normal, and the muscles in my chest loosen, not without a fair measure of relief. I guess this means the end of my little sojourn through, in any case. There's a cafe on the far corner, so I'll stop by to quench my thirst before heading back. A little bell above the door signals my arrival to an empty counter. For a few moments, I stand there waiting, my eyes every now and again drifting from one end of the counter to the other, searching for a service bell. Eventually, a door some ways behind the counter opens, the person emerging from it taking me by complete surprise. Yuko? I had no idea you worked here. I really have no idea how to address her either, given that she is technically school staff as well as, apparently, a waitress. Yes. She quickly paces up to the counter before flinging her upper half downwards in an overacted bow. Welcome to the Shanghai. May I take your order? Straight down to business, I see. I don't know, well, some coffee, please? Yes, certainly. I'll make it right away, and I'll bring it to you when it's done. Thanks. Yuko's formality takes me back. She seems to take her job very seriously. Obeying her instructions, I turn around and quickly glance around for a free table. Considering the cafe seems to be empty, this is a simple task to accomplish. As I walk towards a table adjacent to the window, I notice a flash of yellow around one of the cable dividers. Sure enough, no more than a glance is needed to ascertain that it is a certain Sato at the table. That said, I don't recognize the suited figure across the table from her. Blonde, fair-skinned, and only a little shorter. I think she must be a relative. Since the two are all but silent as the suited figure takes a swig from a cup of coffee, I decided to greet Lilly. Some part of my coming here was in order to meet her after all. Hi, Lilly. Hazao? Yeah, nice to meet you again. The suited girl looks up, noting my uniform with a relaxed smile. Know each other? I guess. It's as good an approximation of our relationship as I can think of. Care to take a seat? She says to the air beside me, but the message is clear enough, and I take a seat beside her. I suppose some introductions might be in order. Hazao, this is Akira Sato, my older sister. Akira, this is Hazao Nakai, another Yamaku student. Looks like my guess was correct. The newly introduced Akira gives a nod, which I return. What I don't return, however, is the almost analytical gaze with which she looks me over. As she does so, Yuko walks up to the table and carefully places the coffee on the table before bowing and taking her leave. Gently bringing my hand to the side of the cup, I realize that it's already at the right temperature to drink. After taking a sip, the flavor turns out to be just as good as the temperature. Yuko seems a lot better at this than being a librarian. I take a good long drink before relaxing into the seat. It takes mere seconds for Akira's exclamation to come to an end. Apparently becoming quickly bored with the activity, she turns to her sister. So, how's school recently? It seems Akira is entirely unconcerned with someone she doesn't know at all listening to everything they say. Not that I mind. Leaving them to their chatting, I sit back and continue drinking the pleasantly aromatic coffee. Sounds like it's pretty busy for you then. At least I'm not cooking your meals after school anymore. As they talk, I slowly realize that I'm entirely able to gauge Lily's emotions through her eyes, as I would for any other person. It becomes slightly unsettling as I subconsciously focus on that fact. Whoa, so cold. Weren't you just cooking for yourself anyway? I only ever got leftovers. That's not the point. Are you managing to feed yourself at least? I can cook without blowing myself up, you know. Mostly. That's... It's fine. I need to learn sometime anyway. Lily. Everyone present is momentarily distracted by Yuko, who places a cup of tea on the table for Lily. Taking the moment to glance at her watch, Akira levers herself off her seat and gives me a quick nod. Well, I'd better be off. It was nice talking to you, Lily. Akira, do you have to? Lily looks genuinely mournful at her sister suddenly leaving. It doesn't seem like she might have the wrong idea. It does seem like she might have the wrong idea. Sorry, I need to get back to work. They'll be on my neck again if I don't make it back quickly. So informal. Akira's trim and tidy appearance would give anyone the wrong impression of her. Bye, Akira. Come on, don't look so down. I'll be around again soon. See yas. With that, she waltzes out of the Shanghai with her hand held high. Lily still looks pretty depressed, so I tried to make some small talk in an effort to take her mind off it. She seems nice. We used to live together, but now that I live at school, we hardly ever see each other. Despite Lily being quite affable, I still don't really know much about her. In hindsight, it's surprising just how much she's extracted from me, really. You used to live together? Was it somewhere around here? It was pretty far south, so the trip into Yamaku was fairly long. With her working hours getting longer, and Yamaku being so far away, there was little choice in the end but to move into the dormitories. Well, that explains the chatter about cooking. Evidently regaining her composure, she livens back up, at least, in part. I take it you're better rested now? Sorry? You sound a little less exhausted than you did when you first came in. To be able to pick out my breathing like that, she must have pretty good ears. Yeah, ended up walking all over town despite only planning on taking a short walk down here. Reminded of my thirst from the walk, I lean forward to take a sip. Without further ado, Lilly starts in her cup of strong-smelling tea. I guess I'd better get going back to Yamaku. There's only so long I can stall studying for, and I want to get a good night's sleep before the festival. Standing from my seat, I take the coffee-stained cup from the table. You're leaving? Yeah. You going to head back as well? It's getting kind of late. For a moment, she pauses, before lifting her face over her teacup, as if she was looking at me. Yuko, could we have one more coffee, please? Okay, I'll bring it right away. That's not subtle. She gives a short giggle at my frank assessment of her maneuver. It's surprisingly childish and carefree, given her otherwise collected appearance. In the end, though, I have little reason to refuse. To be honest, I can hardly say no, all things considered. Giving a manufactured sigh, I take a seat opposite her. Wanting company, then? I'd say that's more that I was wondering. I see. She's in questioning mode again. She does seem to be unusually interested in me, or at least curious. Do you have any siblings? Not exactly an unexpected tangent. No, only child. To be honest, the idea of having someone that close makes me a bit envious. Honestly, siblings are... It's a mixed bag. Like, on one hand, like... Yeah, like, it divides the parents' attention and focus and stuff like that, but, like... Personally, I don't think... Look, I love my siblings, don't get me wrong. They're just really fucking annoying sometimes. It's like, why are you doing this? And, you know... And, as I've grown, you know, more apart from my siblings, right, it's a little strange, to say the least, because, you know, it's like, growing up, oh yeah, I want nothing to do with you, get away from me, but, like, now that I'm older, right, and, you know, we now live, well, most of us live apart. I still have one younger brother that lives with us, but, you know, as we begin to grow apart, and, like, develop as people, right, you know, it becomes, like, even though, like, those times are, you know, annoying and whatever, it's like, I don't regret having siblings. Like, even though they're pain in the asses sometimes, like, you know, I still love them, even though, you know, yeah. So yeah, being an only child, what that does is, here's the thing, if I was an only child, my social skills would be far worse than they already are, which is already bad because my social skills are already terrible. So, to tell you the truth, if I didn't have siblings, I might not be a high-functioning autistic. I may be low-functioning because I don't know how to deal with other people my age very well. But, yeah, if that makes any sense. Anyways. So, yeah. Anyways. Interesting. I raise an eyebrow, which of course goes unseen. The short silence communicates the question well enough. It's just that others have said the same thing before. It's a difficult subject to try and think about objectively, given that I've always had someone like that. I can mostly understand what Lilly means, given that it would be hard to place oneself outside of a situation they've been in all their life. She and her sister must have had a pretty close relationship. Taking pains to interrupt us as little as possible, Yuko dutifully comes over and places a cup on the table. Lily thanks her, and I sit back, taking in this vexing girl in front of me. Despite always seeming to be on her guard and in control of herself when talking to others, she almost has a childlike curiosity about other people. That said, those rare moments she seems to slightly lower her guard are most insightful into how she thinks. Reaching forward for my drink, I realize something I probably should have noticed earlier. I think I'm starting to become kind of curious about her. Despite making a good pace, it's already nightfall by the time I reach the large iron gates in front of the school. While it's nice to have plenty of time to wander around by virtue of living right next to this school, I can't help but get the feeling that very few students actually take the opportunity. Compared to the number of students I see milling around on campus during free time, it's startlingly rare to see anyone around town. Given the large number of accommodations and facilities that the school offers, many of them might simply not see any point in venturing outside, let alone people such as Hanako and Kenji. It makes me wonder if students like Chizune, Misha, and Lily are the exception for this school rather than the norm. As I wander back to my dorm room, I continue to compare my old school with Yamaku. As I do so, I begin to be surprised that I managed to even get this used to everything that's happened to me. So yeah. Okay, what scene is this? Don't panic. Okay. Right. I know what I'll do, even if it's just one person. I'll make the festival more enjoyable for her. As I place the bowl on the counter, I call out to Lily. Hazao, you brought it back? Yeah, here. I slide it into her hands, and she takes it over to someone who is apparently on cleaning duty. Considering that I didn't see them there before, is probably a penalty for their tardiness. Hey, Lily. She perks up and returns to the counter as she hears my voice again, realizing that I'm still here. Want to go see more of the festival? She puffs her cheeks disapprovingly. It looks kind of cute and in complete contradiction to her usually reserved nature. It takes a few seconds for me to get what she's taking issue with. Whoops. I didn't mean to. Lily giggles at me, exposing her teasing for what it is. You're not used to this school, are you? She got me. Still, I kind of need to stay with our stall. It's taken until just now to even get everything unpacked. I guess her reluctance shouldn't overly surprise me, considering how much work she's put into this. Everything seems to be working fine now, though. Besides, you got extra help on the hand anyway. A boy in the middle of cooking some soba noodles turns towards us, grinning. Go on, Lils, you've earned yourself a break. We can hold down the fort for now. If you say it's okay, then I suppose so. But if you need any help, then we'll call you. Go on, we'll be fine. Lily finally gives up her resistance as he waves a spatula at her. She feels her way around the back of the stall and picks up her cane on the way. I guess the first thing we should do is look for Hanako. Lily seems kind of worried about her, and I doubt she'd be the kind of person to enjoy milling about in crowds like this all alone. I guess we should search for Hanako. Where to first? Both of us go quiet for a moment to think. Maybe she's in her dorm room? I doubt it. She doesn't keep too many things in there, so she'd have nothing to do. Ah, the library. As good a place as any to search for an avid reader, I suppose. The library it is. We'll check there first, then. Aside from the muffled sounds of the crowd seeping in from outside, the inside of the school seems almost deserted. In order to make sure everyone had enough room, I guess all the events were organized to be held outside, on school grounds. They're definitely quite large by any other school standards. It's nice and quiet here, isn't it? Yeah, much nicer than the hustle and bustle outside. We take our time and slowly walk to the first floor of the school, eventually reaching the stairs to the second floor. I can't help but notice how Lily anticipates every door and obstacle, her cane remaining still and her hand skating along the hallway railings. You really know the school well, don't you? She smiles and nods straight ahead. We've been here for a few years now, so I know where everything is. The dorms still trip me up, though. Sometimes I haven't been there as long, and they're not as well laid out as the main building. If I'm remembering right, they used to be unused buildings before being renovated and used as dormitories. That explains why the male and female dorms look so different from the outside, and why their rooms seem kind of unusual for sleeping quarters. I'd assumed she'd be living in the dormitory since she began attending school, but now I'm reminded of what she said yesterday. That's right, you mentioned that before. I'd assumed that most of the students here lived in dormitories once they enrolled. A lot of them seem to, in any case. Lily's expression becomes somewhat harder to read, my questioning evidently touching on a delicate point. Well, how should I say? Everyone has their reasons. Something tells me that one of those reasons is Hanako, hence her tiptoeing around the answer. My own predicament is yet another such case. I guess it's a choice everyone here would have to make for themselves, or in my instance, have made for them. It can't be helped, I suppose. At least Yamaku itself seems like a nice place. It's good to hear you say that. I thought you were coming to dislike it. What about you, though? My reversal of Lily's statement takes her by surprise. I've been here for a while, so... It's not that. You seem pretty depressed about Akira. What's with that look? Akira's taken. Sorry, Hazao. Lily never sees how fast my palm meets my face at her sly accusation. Hey, I was worried about you. There's no way to respond to concern. While she gives an amused grin, we round the corner of the hallway and enter the library. As we do so, it isn't hard to spot Hanako, considering that the room is completely devoid of anyone else. Given that there are no staff around, I guess there's no need to heed the usual library rules. I call out to her. Hey, Hanako? Hanako is here. As she hears our voices, Hanako's head flicks up from behind a book, probably the same one she'd been reading on Friday. Hazao? Lily? Just thought we'd drop by. Lily just managed to escape from the noodle stall with a little help. That wasn't really an escape. Hanako gives a small giggle, briefly surprising both of us. I just thought that Lily might not be enjoying the festival. Well, now we can enjoy it together, right? The two nod happily before we set out to the library and towards the festivities. I hand over some change to the girl behind the counter and take the 2 styrofoam cups of tea. I try to accentuate my bow a bit to cover for the fact that she's quite obviously deaf. Come to think of it, I probably should have asked for help instead of leaving those 2 in the gardens while I bought drinks. Trying to juggle 2 cups of hot tea for them and a can of coffee for myself out of a vending machine isn't exactly easy. I mean, okay, you could leave the can of coffee unopened and just like leave it in your pocket and then use the 2 cup. Alright, whatever. Actually, do they have pockets? Does Hazao have pockets on his pants? With some careful maneuvering, though, I manage to keep everything stable and upright as I walk over to the bench where Lily and Hanako are sitting and chatting. It's usually quite a nice place, lit by only moonlight. It's tucked away some distance from the main events. Compared to how hot it had been during the day, the spot is also pleasantly cool by now. Not that it matters all that much. Most of the visitors have moved to areas that are either closer to the fireworks or higher on the hill in order to view the display apparently planned. Welcome back, Izao. Her ears are good. I'm not exactly close, and even Hanako hadn't noticed me. Here you go. Sorry it's instant, but that's all they had left by now. Hanako gingerly takes a cup from my right hand, and I gently place the other into Lily's outstretched hands. Did you enjoy the festival then, Hazao? Yeah, it was pretty fun. An honest answer. Much of the food may have been somewhat subpar, but it was a lot of fun in the end, especially with Hanako and Lily. In fact, I think those 2 may have enjoyed themselves even more than I did. With both Lily and me around, much of Hanako's withdrawn nature around others died down enough for her to enjoy herself. As we sit drinking, the whistle of the first firework rings out before it explodes into a vibrant shower of blue against the night sky, heralding the beginning of the end for the festival. Enthusiastic shouts can be heard from the crowd scattered around the school grounds celebrating them. For minutes on end, Hanako and I watch the fireworks overhead as Lily blissfully listens to them with her eyes shut. Red, green, yellow, star-shaped, circular, and patterned in all manner of shapes and colors fill the air, one after the other, and dance across the sky. No place near where I lived would put on such lavish displays. Festivals like this were a thing of the past in such a metropolitan area. To be seeing such a sight with these two, it's probably the happiest I've been in a while. So, that's it. The festival's finally ending? Yeah. Yeah. She gives a delicate, wistful sigh. As much as I might complain about all the stuff we have to do, it's still sad that we'll have graduated before the next Yamaku festival. I walk forwards and stand behind Lily, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry. We still have Tanabata later in the year, right? You're right. It'll be nice to go there when it comes. Minutes of silence passed, with only the blast of the fireworks to be heard. Seeing these two reminds me of those words of advice Lily had given me as we walked into town together. Cherish the opportunity to make new friends, huh? Hey, Lily. She turns her head slightly to show that she's listening. Hanako's gaze still firmly fixed on the Technicolor fireworks bursting overhead. You mind if I join you two for tea every now and again? The smile on her face is more than enough to see her answer. It would be a pleasure, Hizao. Aw. Act 2. Past. Promise of time. Finish Lily's Act 1. Okay. I wake to the annoying din of my alarm clock. Its bright red numerals lighting up my face. It's the same alarm clock I had at home, one of the few remaining artifacts from my days before coming to Yamaku. I'd hoped that using it would help ease my transition into this new life. No such luck, though. Groggily dragging myself out of bed, I wipe the sleep out of my eyes, then reach over to my desk. I open a couple of the bottles of medication strewn across it, and swallow a few pills dry. By now, the process is starting to become automatic, something I should be glad for given their purpose. Feeling much more awake than before, I wander into the bathroom. While the shower warms up, my mind begins to wander as my new daily routine begins once again. The bright colors of the fireworks fill my mind, as do the two girls with whom I spent my time watching them. It feels strange to be moved by so much by people I know so little about. Then again, I suppose these aren't normal circumstances. At least I have someone to talk to now, aside from my schoolmate next door. With the time left before school begins today waning, I begin to get ready for class. Walking through the door into the classroom, I notice that I'm still somewhat early. I see about 5 or 6 students milling around, most of them looking as if they'd rather still be in bed. It's times like this that I appreciate being a morning person. That said, 2 students in particular seem just as perky as always. Hi Shizune, hi Misha. Suddenly, I realized that my greeting would be lost on the former, so I quickly followed it up with a wave. She doesn't seem overly bothered, or interested for that matter. Hello, Hee-chan, are you feeling well? I can only assume her greeting comes from Shizune. It's hard to tell if she's speaking as herself or Shizune sometimes. Better than most everyone else, I guess. You two seem bright and chipper. Misha signs his back to Shizune as I say it, eliciting a somewhat terse answer, if her sharp and rapid arm movements are any indication. Considering that these two made such a big deal out of the festival preparations, I probably should have chosen my words more carefully. Since you're a new student, we've been cutting you some slack. Please don't expect this kind of task dodging to be allowed in the future. Misha looks as if she's about to add her own comment, but quickly goes back to interpreting as Shizune continues, unabated. While your contribution to Class 3-2 stall is appreciated. Huh? Word sure got around quickly. That or these two have their fingers on the pulse of the school. We would prefer your efforts to be focused on the task at hand, namely your own class. As much as I hate to admit it, they do have a point. Before I could respond, though, Shizune adds something more, which draws a smile from Misha. Did you enjoy the festival, then? Lecture over, I guess. Yeah, it was good. Did you two enjoy it? Shizune gives a short nod as Misha grins and bounces her head up and down. The contrast, side by side, is amusing. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice more students starting to trickle into the classroom. A quick glance at my watch confirms they're a few minutes late. I look over to Hanako's seat and realize that she's already there, and contentedly reading a book. It makes me wonder just how long she's been there without me noticing. With heavy footsteps coming from the hallway, signaling Mutuo's arrival, our idle talking comes to an end, and I take my seat next to Misha. As the door slides open, he strides through with a ponderous gait. His posture is even worse than usual, and his eyes are barely staying open. I guess my quip to Lilly and Hanako about the staff was misplaced. Everyone opens their books as he reaches his desk, and the first class of the new week begins. I rub my eyes as the lunch bell rings out, glad for the temporary reprieve from work. I'm entirely unsurprised when I look over to the door and see Lilly standing there, cane in hand, patiently waiting for Hanako. Considering her acceptance of my request to join them yesterday, I decide to spend my lunchtime with them rather than eat alone. Hanako moves surprisingly fast to meet her companion, and the two enter the hallway before I can catch up. Lily's head turns slightly, registering the sound of footsteps behind her. As Hanako notices and follows her lead, she almost jumps in surprise. Hazao? Hello, Hazao. Sorry if I startled you. Lily turns to greet me, helped in her orientation by Hanako. Good afternoon, Hazao. Are you joining us? If it's no trouble. There's not much else to do, really. Lily gives a small nod, as if to silently brush away any idea that it would be troubling in the least. We descend one set of stairs and walk down the hallway to the usual room, our pace somewhat quicker than usual thanks to Lily using Hanako for direction, rather than her cane in the railings. As expected, it's deserted. The sounds of the other clubs can be barely heard as sunlight streams into the room from outside. Looking around the room, I notice a couple of empty easels propped up against a wall that I don't think were there before. The art club must use this room as extra storage. And yet, never addressed in Rinroute. Having played every route in these 2 summer months, I now remember a lot more of the game. But I'm pretty sure in Rin's route we never use this room. Never. So I don't know. Should I get the chess set out? Hanako's voice seems less tense when she's directly addressing Lily. Yes, I'll make tea while you sort the pieces. I can do that for you if you'd like. She ponders the offer for a moment before smiling, confirming that I've made the right choice. Her face is remarkably easy to read. Very well, thank you. She slides her retracted cane into the handle of her bag and sets it against one of the table legs before taking a seat opposite Hanako. As I prepare tea for the three of us, I can hear the small wooden pieces being set on the board. I wonder how good Lilly is at chess given her circumstances. By the time I place the steaming teacups onto the table, Lilly and Hanako have already moved their first pieces as they nibble on sandwiches and rice balls from their respective bags. I note that the chessboard they're using has holes in the middle for each square and pegs on the bottom of the pieces, and has each dark square slightly raised. Watching Lily's fingers skating over the board, tracing out the positions of the pieces, makes me marvel a little at the simple ingenuity of the design. It must be specifically made for blind players. Yeah, like, isn't chess one of the oldest games? Oldest... Yeah, chess is, like, one of the oldest board games, I believe. That or, like, something else. But, like, chess is pretty goddamn old. So, like, of course they would have accommodations for, disabled players. So I don't think it's that much of a shock. But it's interesting, to say the least. Anyways, here you go. Hanako gives a small nod as I put the cup next to her side of... Hanako gives a small nod as I put the cup next to her side of the board. Lily's hand ventures sideways slightly, so I gently place the cup touching the tips of her fingers, a gesture she seems to appreciate. I finally take a seat and silently sip my tea as the two play. The contrast in their appearances while playing is interesting to watch. Hanako looks closely at the board, her face one of focused concentration. Lilly, on the other hand, keeps her head level and maintains her calm neutrality. Lily's gentle voice addresses both of us as she continues to play. How was class now that the festival's over? I look to Hanako to see whether she'll answer first, but see that she's doing the same. Not great. Half the class seem to be dozing off, even including the teacher. Not to mention a test on top of all that. Hanako quickly adds her own agreement with this. I could imagine that being a bit difficult for you, being a transfer student. Well, I think I did fine. Other than the shock of a test coming so early, science is probably my best subject. How'd you do, Hanako? Me, okay, I guess. Hanako's too sincere to be able to pull off lying very well. That much is obvious. Lily's smile slips very slightly. From her reaction, Hanako mustn't be skilled enough at academics to do very well without preparation. How did your class handle it, Lily? It went surprisingly well, actually. Only one student was absent, which was better than what the teacher expected. With the topic all but run dry, the two concentrate on their chess game once again. I'm guessing that one student absent was Kenji, of course. I can't say I've ever liked the idea of chess as a spectator sport, but given its unique nature, for one, I'm wrapped in watching the game unfold. As time wears on, both of them demonstrate decent skill at playing the game. Having captured two more pawns than Hanako, Lilly has the upper hand, but only slightly. Until Hanako makes a strange move with her queen, seizing upon this lapse of judgment, Lilly takes the piece with her knight. Without hesitation, Hanako moves a pawn to take Lily's rook on the opposite side of the board and promotes it to queen. Lily's face falters as her fingers move over the pieces, and she realizes that she just fell to Hanako's trap. It's a little distracting to have the board traced out after each move, even if it's out of necessity. Judging by Hanako's lack of reaction, she must be used to this. She and Lilly must have played at least a few games of chess against each other after all. Check. That's not bad at all. Nice, Hanako. The compliment causes her to flower into a surprised blush. Thank you. I didn't think it would work. I look over to Lilly, her fingers having just finished tracing out the position of her remaining pieces in in an attempt to extricate her king from this bind.
I think this is checkmate.
Hmm? I take another look around the board to confirm. Sure enough, her king has nowhere to escape without being threatened by another piece. My earlier question as to which of them is better at this has just been answered. So it is. Lilly gives a small sigh as Hanako smiles. From their reactions, this seems like a fairly usual result. How long have you two been playing?
Since I was young.
Lilly nods at Hanako's brief answer.
Hanako taught me how to play soon after I met her. I can beat her every now and then, but that's a rarity. I don't seem to have the right mindset for it.
If Lilly came to Yamaku at the start of high school and met Hanako when she moved to the dorms, that means she's only been playing for about 1 year. After seeing Hanako's level of play, I'm not too surprised Lilly has trouble beating her.
But she's better at languages than I am, so...
Lilly gives an appreciative, if slightly amused, smile at Hanako's quick reversal of her compliment.
Well, that's how it is.
Much to everyone's surprise, the bell suddenly rings, heralding an end to the lunch break.
That game lasted longer than I thought it did.
Oh, I did not mean to do that. Hold on, is everything still good in the OBS? Yeah, okay. Same, I guess we better get back to class. Hanako's already in the middle of packing up, so I take Lily's bag and offer it to her. To my surprise, she takes it and nods, but then places it back down on the table.
Hazao, may I make a request?
Sure, go ahead.
Would you mind if I were to quickly feel your face?
Look, if Lilly wasn't blind, that would be a very unusual question. Wow, Lilly, you're so forward. But yeah, sure. Oh, no, go ahead, I don't mind. The question takes me severely off guard, but once again, I regain my composure. It seems sensible enough. So far, Lily's had no idea what I actually look like, and this would be her only way to find out. Lilly raises her right hand, which I take in mine and guide to my face before letting go. The room is entirely silent as Lily's hand moves over and around my features, from my chin to my cheeks to everywhere else. I expected this to feel a lot more disquieting than it does. I suppose that's because the action is entirely a matter of practicality, being functionally no different to simply looking at someone's face. Her hand is soft, but what takes me by surprise is the length of her fingers, not to mention how short even the slightest of her movements are. I have no doubt that her level of tactile feeling would be far beyond mine. Her hand briefly runs through my hair before retreating. I'm sure that every inch of my face has been committed to her memory. It's only now, too, that I realize Hanako has been silently watching the entire time.
Thank you for letting me do that, Hazao. And if I might add, I think you are quite handsome.
Yeah. I blushed a little at her remark before raising a questioning eyebrow. But if you can't see how... Okay, so basically, how do I say this? Alright, so basically, certain bone structures are seen as more attractive than others, as well as muscle structures in the face. So, I'm not exactly a scientist, right? But like, how do I say this? The more attractive you are, like, it has to deal a lot with, again, the structure of your face. There are other things that can make someone attractive, like, you know, their body, possibly the personality. But I find a lot of it is face. Like, if your face structure is like that of a, if your face structure is seen as good, there's something called the halo effect, and what that does is that it makes everything you do seem better to other people because of how attractive you are. But there's an inverse, and the worse your face structure is, right? There's something called the horns effect, and it's sort of the opposite of the halo effect. Whereas if you look If your face looks uglier, well, guess what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen is that a lot of the things you do is gonna be considered worse by a lot of other people. And for example, there was this guy named Jeremy Meeks, and he was a criminal, right? He committed a bunch of crimes and like was sent to prison, and because like his what was it, his police photo? Anyways, since that got out, right, there was a bunch of women saying, "Oh, I'm sure he didn't do anything that bad. I'm sure he didn't do anything that bad." But that it goes to show you that, like, yeah, sure, there are people that don't consider attractiveness to be, that, how do I say it, that valuable, yeah. But there are absolutely people that are so incredibly vain that absolutely think that because of how attractive someone is, that means morality. What was it? Was it Ted Bundy? Yeah, Ted Bundy too. And there was like multiple other like killers and criminals and stuff like that do absolutely horrible shit, right? But get like mail from like people in prison like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're so attractive, oh my god, you don't deserve that kind of treatment," despite the fact they literally kill someone. So it goes to show you, the reason why I think this is unattractive criminals do not get the same reaction. Like, so, like, I think at some level the halo effect is definitely real. It's just not. I wouldn't say all people, because just a sizable amount of the population is like that. anyways, so yeah, even like blind people can tell. So, anyways. Right, because again, the structure of your face, the structure of your body, and stuff like that. The bone structure, the muscle structure, the goddamn eye structure. Like a lot of it is factors you can't even control. So honestly, I tend to try not to view attractiveness as someone's inner self, because if you conflate attractiveness with moral purity or something like that, you're not gonna get the best people. I'm just gonna say that. But if you can't see how, just because I can't see doesn't mean I don't have my own preferences. Okay, Lily.
We'd better go now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we'll see you later then, Lily. Walking through the hallways back to our classrooms, I noticed that Hanako seems quieter than before, but also more comfortable. Lily, her head on Hanako's shoulder, seems to pick on her assumed pace as well, smiling as they walk. If I could spend the rest of my time at a Yamaku like this, I don't think it'd be so bad. All that's needed for joy are small exchanges of happiness after all. As I reach my desk and set my bag inside it, I realize something, or rather, my stomach does. I was so busy with those two, I forgot to buy lunch. You know what? I think I'm gonna end this episode here. I'm gonna take like 2-3 minute break and then get back on. Let me save that. There you go. Let's go to the main menu. Let's see. Okay, that took a second, but yeah, there's I'm looking at my OBS and not the actual game, but I'm circling around the new thing I got. So, yeah. Awesome. Hopefully, by the time I get to my next game, I can figure this OBS thing out. Because, honestly, yeah. So, considering this is the last route, I'm going to get this final blank here in the music section. And then, what are these two? What are these two? Also, I might have to go through, like, Act 1 again. And just, like, select every option, try to, like, get through that. But, you know. Okay, there's that, that. Yep. Alright, how many of these are left? How many of these are left? Yep, yeah, we got a bunch of these. Alright, 5 further images. Okay. And then there's this last one here, which I'm pretty sure is the image of all of the girls. But, yeah, there's a cinema, we got Lily's thing. And then library. We got all of these. Anyways, so yeah. Completion 85, which I don't think it changed from when I got Hanako's route done. So yeah. And yeah. I'm just gonna be looking through this to make sure I got every scene, and yeah. So yeah, we are 2 scenes into and into Lily's route. Jeez. So, anyways, I'll consider this the beginning of the end, and I'm gonna be taking a break for a bit. So, I guess when I upload this, see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.